Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, good morning. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 5:30 in the morning here at Calgary, Alberta, March 23rd, Tuesday. I'm so happy to be here. This is one child abuse survivor to another. I'm just glad to be able to do these shows and bring some information to people and just to share what I'm finding on the web. And there is some great information out there. We're looking at this week and last week, we're looking at Understanding Crisis. It's an article I found on Child Welfare Information Gateway at www.childwelfare.gov. And it's called Understanding Crisis, and you can pull it up. It's a publication on their website, and they go by alphabetical letter. So you would type in a U, and get all the articles that start with a U, and you could pull up this Understanding Crisis if you were interested in following along. And it's some good information about when there is an investigation into child abuse or child neglect, and the CPS and the crisis workers have to go into the home. This is sort of the best case scenario of what would happen in that case. And, it's so important. People often hear about, children being removed from homes in error, and that, and then they're afraid of CPS. They're afraid. I don't work for CPS. I don't work for any, child protection group at all. I'm just a volunteer with Dreamcatchers. I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. But, I don't work for any kind of organization like that who does things like that. But the thing is I know firsthand what it's like to have intervention done, because we had an intervention done in our family, and when I was very young, and there was always this talk about it afterwards, and we were almost removed from the home, and my parents were told that if they had to go get help, and it was court-ordered counseling for them, or they would lose us. And my mom agreed, my dad agreed, and they went to 2 sessions, and then that was about it. And I was just so young, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I just remember all the abuse and stuff later on that continued, because we were not removed from the home, and there wasn't anything done to follow up. So my parents moved out of the country. They took us out of the country, legally, because they were Canadians, so they were able to do that. And then we moved back down there. We were out of the scope and out of the view of the social welfare system and the social workers, and so the abuse just continued on. And it's unfortunate this happens to kids, and it does happen, and we know it does, and it's sad. Our family was not able to get help, and so therefore it's self-destructed, and there are some remaining members. I'm still alive and everything, but we have suffered from it, and so I'm just kind of interested in looking at what should have happened in that case, and what could help families out, right? And what could help people just to make sense of it all. So I'm glad you could be here. We'll be on for another about 12 minutes. It's not a professional show. I don't hold any professional counseling certificates or anything. It's not meant to replace professional help, right? I'm just a person who does Blog Talk Radio shows because I study child rights, and I'm a survivor of child abuse, and so I like to bring information out. I believe silence is the problem, and so the more people we can get talking about it, society will have to do something about child abuse. They will have to make some positive steps in the right direction to stop child abuse, and really to set up in their own communities ways to help parents who are having a hard time coping. And because we see the reports in the paper, so many reports of kids, the only time we see them is when they're dying at the hands of their caregivers or parents, and or they're in the hospital due to abuse-related injuries. So, we don't want to see that. And so, but it's going to continue on until society and the communities and every single person gets involved. So I'm just one more voice out there just saying, hey, let's do something about this. Let's stop child abuse. And so I'm so glad you can join me. And, if you're a young person under the age of 18, I fight for child rights, and I also I believe in child online safety. So you'd be doing yourself a favor and me by going to get someone to listen to this with you, maybe a counselor or a teacher or someone that you trust, a parent, or if you have a good family member who really you trust and they support you, just to listen to this with you, so that if you have questions, they can help you get the answers, because these topics of abuse are rather sensitive, and you just never know. You might have questions, and then you won't know who to get the answers from. So we'll continue on. We were looking at yesterday crisis. We were looking at the different units, like the multidisciplinary teams that might go into a home, and teams related to CPS and stuff. And now today we're going to look at crisis as an opportunity to initiate change. It's right on the article there at www.childwelfare.gov. And I'll just read right from the page. It says, if help is not available when a family is open to new ways of coping, family members may sink deeper into maladaptive patterns. We might have read this already, such as more violence, heavier substance abuse, deeper withdrawal, or more destructive scapegoating. Under such circumstances, there is an increased risk of child abuse and neglect. When individuals and families are highly stressed and anxious about dealing with unfamiliar problems, such as a summons to appear in juvenile court, I think we did read this, they may feel overwhelmed, hopeless, and panicked. After attempting to use responses that have worked for them in the past, they are searching for new responses to their dilemma. If in the past they have responded to frustration by yelling, accusing, hitting, feeling sick, withdrawing, or crying, it becomes evident to them that these responses are not stopping the CPS or law enforcement investigation. And finding no answer to the situation while perceiving a threat to their existence, families are open to new ways of processing and resolving their problems. And I think we did read that one part. So true. My parents didn't handle anything well. We were talking about that yesterday. They just didn't know how to cope because they could not rely on each other to help when things got really bad, and especially when there was an intervention done. They worked against each other, and they were always doing that. And then they continued to work against each other all the time, and who paid for it? Their kids. Their kids paid for it. That's who paid for it. It's really sad, and people, really need to get help when they need it, because you don't want to do that to your children. It's just not right. It's not the kid's fault. And if you grew up in an abusive home, you know what I'm talking about. Parents really have to take on that responsibility of responsible parenting and just make sure that they are doing the right thing for their children. Everybody makes mistakes and nobody's perfect, and kids understand that because kids aren't perfect either. Who's perfect, But the thing is when there's love in the home and they know the parents care and their parents are just having problems, they can kind of see that, and it might not affect them so bad. But when there's no love in the home and it's just one crisis after another and more abuse, it really does have an effect on families, and that's what pretty much destroyed our family, right? It says, during the resolution of a crisis, individuals and families tend to be particularly amenable to help. Customary defense mechanisms weaken, usual coping patterns prove inadequate, and the ego becomes more open to outside influence and change. A minimal effort at this time can produce a maximum effect, and a small amount of help appropriately focused can prove more effective than more extensive help at a period of less emotional accessibility. If an immediate therapeutic response is made while the family is still experiencing a high level of anxiety or emotional pain, the family is more receptive to intervention, and therefore the crisis worker must listen closely and determine what the family wants to change. During this emotional rehabilitative goal-setting period, crisis workers should respond to family members' disorganized thinking and feelings of guilt, fear, or anger by focusing on 1 to 4 critical issues or goals, thereby increasing their ability to manage their feelings and circumstances, and help families explore their coping mechanisms and identify alternatives for coping with crisis, thereby reducing impulsiveness, feelings of vulnerability, and helplessness, and assist the family in using additional community supports, thereby reducing isolation, enmeshment, dependence, and the complexity of interrelated problems. And my mom really was, she was diagnosed manic depressive. My dad was diagnosed borderline schizophrenic. And the two of them together were just like a war. They were always, it was always a war with them, and they were told to get counseling. They should have had counseling on their own, as well as family counseling, because that would have made all the difference. Not 2 sessions. I mean, we're talking they should have each had their own counseling to deal with what they had to deal with. They both had a lot of problems. And then they should have had family counseling where we all, I was really young, but it doesn't matter, I would have still got in on it eventually. Family counseling, and that would have pretty much, I think, done the trick. That would have saved the family, but unfortunately my parents weren't really open to change. My mom's big thing was that she just wanted to make life completely miserable for my dad, and she used to say it out loud. She'd just be like, I'd tell her, why don't you just leave him, and just leave, just pack up and go, or take us, or don't take us, whatever. My brothers told her that as well. And my mom would be like, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to make life hell for your father. And so, while she did that, she made life hell for all of us, including herself. So it was the wrong attitude. And my dad, he hung around, he stuck around. He could have easily left and just gone and left the family to its own demise. But, he had some sort of, obviously he wanted to stick it out. He was a lot of the reason for the way my mom behaved the way she did. So he could have done a better job at getting himself some help so that he wouldn't cause such grief and abuse my brothers and, go on to physically abuse me. And so, my mom was mainly my abuser, but my dad got his stuff in there too when he could. So, really they didn't get help. They were both brought up very ignorantly by abusive people. Their families themselves, their parents. I don't know about my dad's parents because he doesn't really talk about them, not much. And I didn't meet them or anything. My mom's mom was an abusive woman and abused her children and her husband. So that's where my mom got all that from. So they just passed it on down to us, And my dad, he had a lot of problems with self-image and also with self-esteem. So in order to make himself feel better, he had to put his wife down, and he had to run his children into the ground. And so even today, he does not have any respect for his children or for his wife, who now my mom's passed on, right? But the thing is his attitudes have not changed, not one bit, in that regard. And that's however many years later. So it just tells you, people, if they don't get help and if they don't want to change, it's a real problem for people to change the way that they live and how they treat people, right? You have to want change. If you want to have a better family life, and you want to help your children, you have to change. If I, as a survivor, want to have a good life after the abuse I suffered as a child, I have to initiate that change. I have to want a good life, right? It's a matter of what we want to do and then following through with it. So it's so important, to get help where we can and really to reach out. That's what I keep saying. I didn't reach out before because my parents had pretty much brainwashed us all that if we told anybody, first of all, my mom used to threaten my life if I told anybody what was going on in our home. And so, I believed her pretty much. I knew she could kill me if she wanted to. But, I did tell a few people, but it didn't, nothing happened from it. But the thing is she, she was just, she was always threatening my life anyway, so it didn't really matter. After a while, I was like, go ahead and just kill me. I don't care, whatever. So, I just took it as just a bunch of hot air, right? But the thing is they, over the years, warped us into believing that if we went and got help, like a therapist or whatever, that these people would use our information against us and they would use it to hurt us. And so that was my parents' big thing. They believed that the government was out to hurt them. They believed that every single person out there was out to hurt them. And that, that therapists and counselors were out to hurt them. And so really that was their attitude, and they passed it on to us. And so none of us really reached out to get any help. One of my brothers committed suicide at the age of 33. Another one of my brothers died of a drug overdose at the age of 43. He was in a homeless shelter. They were both having lots of problems in their lives, one, drug use and whatnot. And my other brother was murdered or killed at the age of 19. And so, none of us got any help, and we should have had help, So that's what I say. Just keep reaching out for that help, right, and get help where we can. And tomorrow we're going to look at, we got about a minute left, we're going to look at crisis intervention as a planned response. That's where we'll stop. That's where we'll start tomorrow. And, beyond tonight, Dreamcatchers Talk Radio, which is so exciting. I am the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and I'm so happy to stand with them to raise awareness, education, and prevention of child abuse. And we have on Blog Talk Radio, it's a new show. It's just come out. We're actually on show 7 tonight. So you can listen in 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Dreamcatchers Talk Radio. That's at www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers. And hosting is the best-selling author and president of Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, Donna Shear, and myself. I'll be co-hosting, and we're just so excited about the show. We're looking forward to doing it. 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you can join us live. If not, catch the archive. There's going to be some great information on there. And, you can check out their website, www.dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com. Find out how to report child abuse. Find out what the signs and symptoms are of all the different kinds of child abuse, what to look for. There's all kinds of signs and symptoms that you can look for, and keep your eyes out open for the children in your life, And if you suspect abuse, make the phone call. Do the right thing. If your life is being threatened or your children's lives are being threatened, make the phone call. Do the right thing. Get yourself to safety. Get your children to safety, right? Your children are counting on you to do the right thing. And, you should be counting on you to do the right thing. You do deserve it. You deserve a good life. We all do. So make sure you just hang in there. And if you need anything, get a hold of me. I'm on Blog Talk Radio. I'm also on Facebook and all over the place. And in the meantime, my heart's with you. Take care, everybody. And have a really great day. Be good to yourselves. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.